Ça qu'a fait tout le monde, ça qu'a fait. Bienvenue dans l'autre grand épisode Korim. Je dis c'est avec vous, amis Paul, Luther Style. Et c'est avec plaisir, je dis, pour nous gagner avec vous, yon l'autre gros tonton invité. Mais avant de m'introduire invité ça, je voulais faire connaître que et podcast est disponible de tous côtés. Podcast est disponible sur Apple Podcast, il est disponible sur Spotify, il est disponible sur YouTube. Il y a plein de monde qui t'a plaigné. Et vous voulez podcast sur YouTube, Kounia nous sur YouTube. So, faites ce que vous allez ou abonner. Et puis, encouragez le travail à faire là afin que vous soyez capable d'améliorer ça en affaire. Without any further ado, j'aime dire inviter ça. Et ils sont Marine veteran, ils sont auditor for the government. Et puis, ils sont financial literacy educator. Je dis et inviter ça pour parler nous un peu de tête li et puis tout parler nous des journey ni et comment lui-même l'été et dans dette et comment il vient arriver payer dette ça et puis vient positionner tête li côté il vient gagner ça que le positive networth et je dis ça avec un pile plaisir pour me gagner avec nous et monsieur Lawrence Gonzalez et bienvenue dans le podcast brother.
Oh, thank you for this opportunity. Moi-même, c'est Haitian, ma pou'l non, c'est ma co-op name non. C'est un nom était bam petit. Papa me dit bam non ça, c'est ça le nom que connais.
Yeah. So avant même nous entrer, men, d'abord poser, men, côté non Gonzalez là et sorti. Est-ce que on cap du mix ou bien comment ça?
Technically, right? I'm Haitian Brazilian or Haitian-American,
Haitian Brazilian,
whatever you want to call it. But my dad was actually, I guess, born in Brazil. Because Haitians, for whatever reason, we have a really good back and forth relationship with Brazil and Haiti. So there are a lot of Brazilians living in Haiti here and there. Either they left Brazil and up in Haiti, but you also have a whole bunch of Haitians as well living in Brazil, especially Sau Paulo. So you have that kind of like intermixing. It's not just the soccer, but you there, we got it, you know. But for the most part, I'm Haitian. My grandmother actually migrated back from Dominican Republic, but she, you know, Linois too. So everybody, you know, we're black. So now you see net, Port-au-Prince, Delma, 23, oui du foyer.
So, vous faites en Haïti?
Non, je fait dans Miami.
OK.
Mais maman pas qu'à lever moi-même avec sœur moi. So, ils voyaient nous en Haïti jusqu'à, well, I went when I was 11 months old, and I didn't come back until 9 years old. My sister stayed till like 12 or 12 and a half or something.
OK, that makes sense. OK, m'a fait tout le monde connaît là, épisode ça, son épisode qui parle vraiment Kringlish. So, on vient en pile créole, on vient en pile anglais là-dedans. So, bear with me. So, en Haïti, ou pas comprendre créole, ou pas comprendre anglais bien, mais c'est une belle opportunité pour vous. Pour tendre ça cap dire parce que conversation pas le fait bof en anglais et en créole et ou même tout si vous ici ou pas fin tellement à l'aise avec créole là penser et Jean-Lawrence parle approach épisode ça ou capable apprendre un peu de lui en anglais. OK? Alrighty. So Lawrence en entrée et sans hésitation non épisode là. Je dis à nous allons parler de et personal finance avec paying off debt, right? On connaît ça, c'est domaine nous, ça c'est bagaille et que ou vient entrer là-dedans et font-ils parler et importance qui gagne dans et manage money especially during this lockdown time.
All right. A lot of times we hear about the wealth gap, and the wealth gap is not just in America, but it's really all around the world in regards to how much money that everybody have or wealth that they have. The distribution of wealth is in itself assets minus liabilities equals, you know, whatever you have left. Either it's a gain or a loss, right? And that's really what you're trying to get to. That's your wealth. And it wasn't until like a drive in Haiti, right when I got to like the Port-au-Prince, got into the airport, got a taxi going home, and one of those guys was really saying, "Hey, you got money," and I started thinking to myself, I really don't, because I have a lot of debt that he had no idea about, either it be student loan debt or credit card debt, but that's something that wasn't really known in Haiti. You know, they don't know that you're carrying $20,000 worth of student loan debt, that you owe that much money. I'm actually more broke than a lot of people in Haiti.
Right.
At that point,
That's
it took me, to my mind. I was like, you know what? I need to start doing a lot more research about this. And I started looking it up. There is a wealth gap in America that exists where a lot of the white people or non-Black people themselves have upwards to $107,000 in median wealth. And then if you actually find, and you Google it online, this is a Color of Wealth report, either in Boston, Miami, or California or New York, you'll find the actual stratification that will tell you exactly where you fit in. In Miami, you have the whites, $107,000. You got the Cubans, $22,000. You got the Black Americans, or in really what they called it in that report, $3,700 with a median wealth. And then you have the Black Caribbeans, which we kind of fell into. We had a median wealth of $12,000. But if you take away the car, then that even drops even less than what we have. That 12,000 drops to maybe what, give or take a car for $7,000 or even $5,000. That's now you're down to $7,000 worth of wealth. So that's what the importance of wealth gap is, because it's growing right now, especially during the time of Corona. People are making tons of money investing. And you see the market, the economy is growing, but then you look down the street and you see everybody else kind of struggling. So there is a gap that exists, and it's very important that we need to get ahead of it, because that's going to increase just our opportunity, quality of life, education, our family, our dynamics with each other. All of that improves as our wealth and our money knowledge improves.
Nice. That's very important, man. Speaking of debt, man, how did you end up in deep debt, and how much was it, and how were you able to turn that around to have a positive net worth?
I think I ended up in deep debt just like a lot of people. It's like that good debt or whatever we perceive it to be. I went to school, I took out some student loans, and in totality, my debt looked like this. It was $30,000 in undergrad, $80,000 worth of master's degree in taxation at Florida State, and another $5,000 in credit card debt, all the way at the top. Like my actual credit card actually stopped working at one point because I was at the top of that bracket. And then a next $10,000 that was added on because I used the forbearance, which basically says that, hey, I can't pay right now, so I'm gonna take a year. But at the end of that year, they said, hey, you're gonna capitalize this this extra interest into the loan. And I was like, yeah, just like everybody else, I just said, yeah. And I ended up with $125,000 worth of just debt. And as simple as that is because I was not being accountable to myself. I was just spending, especially on food or housing or just going out. Like those little things actually started adding up, because especially for Black communities or even Haitian communities, hey, you want to go to a compa party, it's not just going to the compa party to pay at the door. You actually got to get the outfit, you got to get the haircut, you got to get the ride.
Yo, you gotta come ready, man.
And sometimes, hey, you're driving a whole hour and a half from Miami to West Palm to Broward. You're doing all of this stuff back and forth. And it's a little here, a little there, and then by the Monday comes around, you spend another $200, $250 on the weekend, and you're not even paying attention. And that's how I ended up in my level of debt. But I started shifting it around because I took accountability and said, you know what? None of this was everybody else's fault. A lot of it, I was right there. I was in the driver's seat for it. I was driving. That's what I wanted to do. That's how I wanted to live. That's what I did. So therefore, I took that time, that same level of effort that would have took me just to go to a compa party, that same level of energy that would take me all the way to 3 a.m. I started researching information, plugged it into mint.com, started noticing my patterns. Like, okay, I have this much money coming in, I have this much money going out. And that's okay. It's okay to say that you're broke. It's okay to know that you're broke, right? Yeah. So I went into that. And because of it, I started noticing the things that we tell to each other, right? We don't have enough money to invest. All my buddies, and we lived in a 4-bedroom house in Tallahassee. It was nice, but I started looking at the money I was spending. I was spending $350 per month on food. It's not I was eating steak and lobster here. I was just eating regular food from Winn-Dixie or Publix and maybe some Walmart food. But the entirety, I was spending $350. My other buddies were spending $400, $500, $600 on anything from Boston Market to Zaxby's or whatever. Just, little thing here and there. Tropical. But in total, when I did all our numbers, we were spending $2,400 a month on food.
How much?
$2,400 a month on food. Because we're always doing our own thing. Everybody, I'm gonna eat here, I'm gonna eat there. My buddy's like, when he left Tallahassee, I swear, man, Tallahassee mother lost like a whole bunch of revenue because he went breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So if you're not paying attention to none of it, eventually it catches up to you, and it caught up to a lot of us. We were investing, we were just spending money on a lot of food. So I started taking that accountability, started thinking differently about my money, and started thinking differently about myself. And that's what got me from negative $125,000 in debt to now, as of today, me and my fiance, we're up $340,000 in positive net worth.
Wow. That's amazing, man. That's amazing. So let me ask you though. So you were in deep debt, right? So when did it click for you? Was it what switched it around for you? Was it a book? Was it someone who like made you realize that? Like, what did it for you?
What did it for me, I would say, is when I went, or I had to go. It wasn't because I wanted to go. I had to go to the dentist. I started feeling a little bit pain there. So I went to the dentist. I was thinking I was going to pay another $100 I didn't have or $200 I didn't have. So I was already panicked to begin with. The dentist said, well, technically, we got to take out all of your wisdom teeth. So the one all the way in the back, they got to take it out because it was started impacting one of my teeth, right? One of my teeth in the back. So because of it, I went in and he said, well, it's going to cost you this much. I think it might've been like I don't know how much it was. It was so much money that I didn't want to hear it. So I asked him, like, hey, what's the other alternative? Like, well, you could do this. He spelled out some other numbers I didn't care about. What about just local anesthesia? So I took local anesthesia. I went in and he put the local in, whatever, I started going in it. But about 30 minutes later, this is an entire process of them breaking. First, they got to drill into it. Then they got to break it, and they got to pull out. Goodness. And as I'm feeling the first one, because the pain is so much, and he tapped me on the shoulder, it's over. I was still feeling the first one before I started feeling the next ones.
Wow.
But at that point, to me, I was like, you know what? I need to change my life. I need to change my life. I need a little bit more money, a little bit more insurance, whatever it is, so I don't have to deal with that level of pain ever again.
That's amazing story, man. That's amazing story. C'est ça m'a demandé parce que un peu fois tant que l'envin fait réalisation ça son bagay, there has to be something, right? So it has to be something, or like something that happened, or somebody that makes you realize that. And I'm happy you shared that with us.
And it was also a girlfriend too. So.
Oh well,
no, it was a girlfriend at the time. Went out to a date that she always wanted to go to this spot, and I don't know, she was having a bad day, and like a lot of people that are already toxic to themselves, she basically took it out on me. So she was telling me that, one, it's not possible that you ever get to money. You're never going to get to wealth. Your family's always going to be broke. And she just really believed it. And because she believed it so much, I wanted to prove to her that it's not impossible. It might be improbable. And that's two different words. Impossible is like, it can never happen. Improbable means it's very difficult. Right. So I wanted to show her, in totality that, mathematically, you could go back to the board and you could really start noticing things you can do. And then over time, your life will improve. But she didn't want to believe it. She was having a terrible day. And it really taught me about how we perceive wealth in the community. We always think it's impossible, but it's not that impossible. It's improbable. But there's a lot of things we can do to change. Like my grandmother, she had 6 kids. She raised them all in Haiti. I don't think she ever made more than $16,000 a year in good or whatever it is. She just didn't make more than, I don't think she broke 20K, right? But she still was able to provide for her entire family. And I get it, it was years ago, it was a different type of lifestyle, different place, but she was able to provide for her entire family. And I'm looking at myself, one person, Lawrence, making 23K before taxes. Yeah, I should be able to handle this, right? I should be able to take care of at least myself. And that's really what started to pull things together. That entire year, that 2012, that's when they pulled out the team. That girl told me this, and then I started understanding that, hey, my grandmother did a lot more with a lot less. Why can't I do more?
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad you brought that up, because To me, I feel like managing money and building wealth, it's all about a mindset, right? So, and then to me, if you don't have the right mindset, then there's a lot of bad decision you're gonna make, like regarding money. Ça vient pousser me vient poser next question, hein, qui
Mhm.
c'est what are some myths and misconceptions that you feel like in our community that we have as like young Haitian millennials or black people in general about
Uh,
money?
Big myth you got is like money is the root of all evil. That's one of the biggest things that we ever. I don't know where we learned that from, but it was a terrible understanding.
Yeah, I
It's
think it's
not.
a misinterpretation,
Yeah,
right?
it's
So it's
completely odd.
yeah.
I'm not quite sure what it's all about, but it's like, how is money the root of all evil? But when you're poor, you know, hey, people will fight you. Like,
You
people will
will
steal
rob
from
you,
you.
man.
Yeah, they'll steal from you when they're poor. So it didn't make any sense. So that was the first one. It's clear and evident it is not. Thing that we suffer from, especially in the Black community, we don't talk about money, the issues we have with money, or even the mistakes that we've done with money, right? So nobody wants to admit that level of error. And because we don't share, we don't learn. Because how do you know what's going on? How do you know that refinancing might be a bad idea if nobody told you that they refinanced for the last 20 years and now they owe way more on the house than they ever did when they bought it? So these are the little things that we don't talk to each other about. And especially in our families, like our moms and dad, when you probably parler, all those
Yeah,
mistakes that you
yeah.
made, maybe you bought a home that was way too much. Maybe you went to a person that swindled you for money. These are all experiences that you can
You can
tell
share.
to the timun, and then they're gonna take it in their minds. They're gonna be like, okay, this
Exactly.
is what I'm not gonna do, right? This is what I'm gonna
Exactly.
change.
Exactly. I'm glad you bring that up, man. And I feel like this is uh I don't know if it's a scarcity mindset that we have or survival mindset. Like when we have something or we know something, we tend to keep it to ourselves instead of like sharing it like to others, right? So it's like, if like you mentioned earlier, if I know how to, buy a property, instead of sharing that, I just keep it on myself and keep building my portfolio, in private and keep doing my thing. And at the end of the day, collectively, like personally, yes, I'll be successful, but collectively, I don't think it helps the community, right? So
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Like even sharing a podcast like this to your friend, because I think it's a human nature too. Like if something is good, we take it in and we
Mm-hmm.
hug it. We're like, it makes
Yeah,
us feel
that's
good, whatever. If something is bad and something, not parler de so and so and tell, that information goes so fast. Like it's shared everywhere. Like he's like, hey, I don't like this person. It's shared the quickest. But if you tell somebody something positive, then we
mm-hmm.
rather take it in and or we're completely afraid too. Like we're very prideful people, and we're afraid that let's say that house didn't work out, somebody's gonna find out that hey, it didn't work out for me, or I lost
Yes,
$5,000. Maybe
on
I
l'autre
lost
bagay encore.
$1,000. You
Ça
don't
son,
probably live by a side
nous
because
parler, yeah.
it'll show that we're fallible. It'll show that we can
Yes,
make mistakes. And
yes,
people
yes,
don't like
yes.
that. They don't like to feel like somebody's looking at them and judging them. So in the Haitian community, nous jugeons to the point that we stop doing anything because we're scared of judgment.
Exactement, exactement. Et gen de moun tou, they don't even want to ask you questions because you're probably pou ta di ou non, ou bien bagay sa. It's just it goes deeper, man. It goes deeper, and to me, it's a huge, huge, huge issue. Et m'pase si pou nou komanse build wealth nan community a, fò nou komanse, mwen mè travay wap fè amen, et sou page ou bay sa wap poste tout sa wap apren, wap poste journey ou pa ou vraiment open, ou vraiment vulnerable, ou open ou di moun, ok, men kote m soti nan det. Parce que, imagine, e pa tout moun kapal sur social media ou bien kapal pale avec de trois amis di, hey, yo, I was 100 and something dollars in debt. Like, it's very, and the fact that you did it, c'est pas lo fin positive la, non, ou fel depi avant même in the journey, right?
Yes.
So, while you were paying it off, and ou komanse a pataje ba sa. So, mpense se yon nan mwen, et c'est une bagay faut commencer à faire dans la communauté nous is to start embracing this abundance mindset. Just because I'm sharing bagay avant, ça pas étirer rien dans moi-même, right? It's not gonna take anything from me. So, but say, I'm glad you brought that up, man. I'm glad you brought that up. So let's move on to the next question. Keeping up with the Joneses, right?
Mm-hmm.
lifestyle creep. Like, talk to me about those. What, like,
You
m'tande
know,
tem sa déjà? Et m'konnen tem sa jan de bagay sa ap affecte community ya. So, fon ti pale m'de bagay. So, comment bagay sa ka empêche build wealth?
Oh man, lifestyle creep is a problem all over the place. Even in Haiti, you have it, especially in the term of social media now that we have the IG and people could see what everybody's doing across the world. Either it be Miami, Boston, New York, Canada, France, like everybody could see too much of everybody's world. So because of it, everybody's trying to keep up with this thing. Everybody's trying to create a hyper reality that they don't even, they can't even afford. You have, for example, in DC, when I got here, I was invited to this hangout with this group of people, right? And it's like, okay, I didn't have the money at the time. I was already at the end, because when you're transitioning from one city to another, you're waiting for the paycheck to eventually hit you. But that paycheck could take like a month to hit you before even the next paycheck. So you're really at the edge. So you're waiting. So they invited me to this restaurant, this Latin fusion restaurant. I'll never forget it. You get there. And the lady said she was gonna pay for me. I'm like, but I knew she wasn't. My instinct said, if I get koman or whatever, I'm just gonna, I'm gonna pay. I'm gonna grab this and maybe a small drink, and I'll be fine, right? Yeah. Just to fit in. At the end of the thing, they were buying plates, little tapas. It was very bougie. There was something about it that was very weird. That everybody's buying. The lady at the end, she's like, I'm gonna buy dessert. And then when the person comes around, do you want more dessert? I'll get more drinks, more dessert, more tapas. Ultimately, at the end, the waitress come back in and she says, hey, do you want me to split it, like by check or by or down the line? And all of them, minus me, said, and I was the new guy. They're like, yeah, split it evenly down the line. Like, evenly how? I had one tapa, one drink. The rest of you was, like, what baffle by what munch to buy. And it's not like it filled you up. These are small little appetizer things, right? At the end, the bill was like $500 for maybe,
oh my God,
for maybe 7 people, right? Damn. 7 people, $500. And he reminded me at the end of it, and I didn't even have the money. I didn't have money for groceries for like 2 weeks after that. I didn't have anything. I had to go home, get a bus, get whatever to get home, walk. And throughout the walk, it reminded me so much that how much money we spend and how different we have become as a society. Because $500 would have fed, two families for 2 months. Man.
Oh yeah, easily.
Straight up, two whole months. But it's for us, we just spend that money because we're trying to fit in. You want to you see the travel. People travel now on credit card. I even heard recently people take out from their 401k to have the money to travel. That's what's going on too. So there's a lot of this fake stuff that's going on, and it's digging into our pockets and our opportunities. So you're faking a lifestyle that you're basically robbing yourself from. Ultimately, you're going to take away from yourself. So that's the lifestyle creep.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's exactly what it is. And I feel like social media as well has a big, it has a big influence in that as well. Because, people out there comparing themselves with others and seeing people, traveling, and they don't know how, like they're able to do that. But, I don't know, like something about it. It's just like, I want to do it as well. I want to show off as well. I want to show people that I'm living that life.
Sound like Creole, man. We're going to pull up on Creole live.
So, bon expliquer lifestyle creep là en créole pour moun qui pas reconnaître ça. Peut-être j'en ai parlé à vous comprendre ça n'a dire. C'est là tout coup et ou gen un lifestyle, right? Donc ou vivre normal, ou vivre une vie normale, mais et des fois ou quitter société ou bien on cap di moun qui gen influence sur vinn fait que ou vinn upgrade lifestyle. Ça veut dire ou vinn censé et lifestyle ou vivre là ou pas vinn vivre li encore ou vinn acheter tant coup bagay qui ou pas même ka ou pas même ka afford ou même ka posséder vrai ou pas même gen l'argent pour acheter au vrai ou commencer tant coup aller tant coup dans trip à la vacation bagay ça yo et c'est dans ou obligé entrer dans dette pour faire ça just because tant coup sans moun et du on aller et ou pas même garder pour ouais si que ou même ou gen funds available pour faire ça ou juste aller parce que vous voulez faire avec zamon ou bien vous voulez bagay ça ou bien ou une new machine que ou gon ti machine là qui a bien marché, pas une pièce problème, but dès qu'on vle, tant qu'on et fait moun ouais, ou bien passer ou bien ou bien vivre, ou obligé ou entrer dans dette pour ouais pour montrer moun que ou bien passer. So c'est ça qui lifestyle creep là avec capable de keeping up with the Joneses. Donc ou exemple a bien passé ou bien passé tout, ou obligé faire un sacrifice que ou pas même besoin faire même pour venir et des fois venir mettre tête dans trou, right? So mettez tête dans le trou et pour capable montrer qu'il va vivre une vie qui est pas réalité. Donc moi c'est en créole et c'est résumé à ça.
No, hey, it's important to say in Creole too, because some people don't understand it, but it's happening all over the place. It's not just in America, it's always happening. Had my best friend's nephew, and he took some photos on IG, and he was a photo in a suit. I think it was for his prom or something like that, next to like a nice car, and he tags it the location Dubai. And underneath there, he has like 200 likes going on, you know, and people are like, "Hey, you're doing big things." So it's creating this thing this fake reality that he wants to live in, and everybody underneath will start doing the same, scamming their way. They're doing, you know, from crook to, they'll do whatever it takes to get to that point, and that's also a problem because you're losing out on yourself because you're not being truly authentic to the money you have or what you can do. And you're gonna burn yourself into a lifestyle that doesn't even have anything to do with anything.
Exactly. And I think like to start building true wealth, honestly, you have to get away from this mindset because you cannot try to keep up with the Joneses and trying to build wealth. Like it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. You can't keep increasing your lifestyle. Let's say, bon l'autre exemple, right? Let's say, ou tap travail pour $40,000, right? Ou tap travail pour $40,000 par année. Et puis, il m'a bien expliqué au lifestyle creep là. Ou t'es comfortable avec $40,000, next année, ou bien travail dans le travail, you bon $60,000. So, ou t'es qu'on a fait $40,000, right? Let's say on a fait $40,000, ou dépenser $30,000, par exemple, right? So, kounya la, dans l'autre année, ou vin get promoted or something happened, right? You get promoted, ou vin toucher $60,000. Lifestyle creep like ça le fait, instead of you still living in that $30,000 que ou ta vivre chaque année, ou vin kounya ou dit, oh, bon, kounya m'a fait $60,000.
Go club, man. Go club.
Form upgrade. Kounya, ou aller dans upgrade, kounya, l'ou aller dans upgrade, kounya ou vin faire dépenses chaque année, vin $50,000. Kounya la, c'est comme si, pas de différence. Ou t'es 40, ou t'as dépensé 30, kounya 60, ou t'as dépensé 50. C'est même $10,000 différence qui gagne. Et des fois, nous qu'on aller au-delà de ça n'a pas entré à même. So laisse ou t'as entré 60, ou al dépenser 70, 90, vin mettre tout dans plus dette, vin faire que ou pas qu'à build a true wealth là. So moi c'est son l'autre façon comme les gars expliquer. But c'est chaud pour lier, moi c'est me parler trop.
Non, c'est de chaud pas. Non, c'est conversation besoin là. C'est vraiment important pour discuter parce que c'est problème nous gagnons en Amérique là. On peut le monde acheter gros Mac, go buy de voiture, il pas même besoin. Gros caille, il pas même clean by island. Go tout buy robe you gain la closet là. Il va même mettre shoes en seule fois avant de finir.
You finish, so it's a like I said, it's a mindset, man. Let's jump into the next question. So, comment c'est build wealth? On parle un peu de build wealth. Est-ce que ça a un economic downturn là? Is it possible to do that? Is it possible to build wealth in this downturn?
It is definitely possible to build wealth in this downturn. The first thing I would say is like, it's not just this like get wish crick, you know, like, hey, let's invest tomorrow and things like that. Everything that you're doing from like just even reviewing your finances, knowing what's coming in versus what's coming out is something that you didn't know before, right? It's something very simple you can do so you can start limiting the amount of spending that you're making. And maybe this downturn, especially this downturn where everybody is at home, you're not necessarily going out to brunch, you're not going out to all these other excess scenarios. So you're taking your time now to really decide like what is important. These are the lessons that's going to carry you to the next decade. Like what's important to you? Is working out more important? Going on runs in the morning? These are things that are free. We need to divorce ourselves psychologically from spending equal happiness or happiness equals spending. That's a problem because even as kids, then when we didn't have the money, we had imagination. We made forts, we made straight up forts out of couches. You know, like we just had fun in the house or outside. We hung out with friends just playing jumping rope, which is an activity. These are the little things you could remember about yourself. And this is giving us an opportunity to do so. And it's very important now to really concentrate on those lessons so you could fix your credit card. A lot of people had way too much spending. Now is the perfect time to just knock that down. Some people had a lot of student loans or even maybe $30,000 student loan, but the interest was frozen on them for for like the last 6 months or something like that. That's actually a benefit to you. So the more and more you put in, it was actually going directly to the principal. So these are the little things that are happening that are creating this opportunity for you to have throughout your lifetime. And these are the things you can do to just grow your wealth. You don't have to jump into investing and being Warren Buffett. That's not the game. The game is to actually fix yourself, kind of like working out. Like you don't jump into getting abs. You jump into, hey, getting up in the morning, getting, working out every once in a while, getting into a running motif. You change your lifestyle completely. And I guarantee you the money is going to come to you, but it's not going to come to you trying to find
overnight.
To your life.
Yeah. Definitely. So, Kunyala, for the audience listening, right? So, let's say somebody's in debt right now, or, that person is trying to build wealth. What would be the first step to take to start paying off those debt and then start building wealth? And also, can you also provide some tools they can use to help them along the way?
All right, let's, and it's something that you taught me, keep it simple, right? Keep it simple. Keep it plain for people, trying to break it down for people.
Yes.
And I've said it a couple of times in this conversation, it's not by coincidence, it's because I want to really sell this idea that you can actually do this on your own for free, of just tracking your income versus your expenses. If I'm asking a person, hey, how much, what's your average monthly expense? If you don't know what that is, you need to go start finding out what that is. What's your monthly income? Some people don't even know that. They never look at the statement. They don't look at the bottom line. They have no idea. These are the little things you can do by using things like Mint.com, which is a personal financial tech that's available for free online. You can use that. You plug in your information. It'll really start tracking your incomes and your expenses. Another thing you can use is personalcapital.com. Same thing. It's a little bit more technical for a lot of people that have investments, but ultimately it's doing the same thing. It'll show you your income versus your expenses. You could do something like YNAB, which is you need a budget. They charge. I wouldn't necessarily recommend you paying anything, especially you already have the free stuff.
But you have the free stuff for
that works for you. Or you could just use it on paper. Just grab a piece of paper, start tracking things out. So you have any type of way that in your life to actually fix that, figuring out your income to expenses. That gap that you have at that point, if you do have a gap, let's say, well, if you don't have a gap at all, you need to start cutting down some of these expenses. Either it be, hey, you might not need the Netflix. Maybe you just borrow somebody else's Netflix. Maybe you don't need to have the best features on the phone. Maybe you can knock that down a little bit. Or even the way that we buy groceries. Maybe you stop, eating steak and lobster on Sundays, whatever. Start bringing that price down, start buying a little bit less to create that gap. And the first step after that is to knock down your credit card. No matter what it is, the credit card people are carrying are anything from 15% to 21, 24, 25%. And that's a true damage. And the only people that did not sleep during this downturn was the credit card company. They never said a word. Why? Because they were just collecting checks. No matter what, they're just taking away money. They never said about, they're the only people that didn't say anything about, well, we're going to cut down interest for this. They just let this one ride out. This is the problem. So just make sure that you're paying that down, because that's going to be a gap, a way that you start increasing the money in your pocket if you pay it down sooner. Like my fiance at one point, and something I talked to her and I let her know I was going to say, at beginning when we started tackling her debts, her credit card was charging her $150 per month in interest fees. Interest fees. As soon as I saw that, that's the first thing we got knocked out. We got knocked this sucker down.
Imagine what you can do with that 150.
But there's some people that I've worked with, clients I've worked with, that never even look at their statement. So you're talking about people, really sinking in $150 per month in this stuff. So we're knocking that down. So that creates now going forward, an additional 150. You could use that in any way you want. Either get a haircut, get new hair, do new outfits. I don't care. But at the very least, you're not throwing it away inside your credit card. And that's the first two things you do before you get into any level of investments and any level of maybe your 401k matching. If you tackle those two things, you'll be better off 110%.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Parce que moun ki pal tande la, et those of you listening, prends step sa yo pour retirer tête tout nan dette, sou nan dette, ou bien commencer capable di building wealth. So, bon model Lawrence. So, not tout, I guess, a journey sa, paying off debt, that paying off debt journey and building wealth that you would have done differently, what would it be? Or anything at all? Would you change anything?
What would I have done differently? I think part of my journey itself defines the story that I could share with other people. So it's hard to kind of, dissect that and just say, hey, I would have done it differently, because then I would have learned these things and I would have shared it all the way through. Like if I didn't have the student loans, or if I didn't hit those struggle points, I might be a whole different type of Lawrence.
That's true.
But beyond that, though, things that I probably should have done more of is read a lot more books. And that's just not generally just the financial piece, but really just read more. Versus spending a lot more. If Facebook is the last book that you read last year, it's the only book that you read last year, it's a problem. You know what I'm saying? And I was at that situation where that's the only book that I know of. And that's not
Facebook is the last book that you read.
If that's the only place that we get our information, your IG is like, oh, the IG told me this, or Twitter told me that. We're getting to the point where we're robbing ourselves from these opportunities to change.
That's true.
So reading to me was probably something I still struggle with now, and it's like something I need to make more time for to actually get more information in me.
It's definitely gonna take time. It's something I struggle with. I honestly started 2 years ago, like started taking this thing seriously, and it took me a while. I actually had to start with audiobooks, and then while listening to the audiobooks, and like what I found was so good, I was like, okay, now I gotta force myself to read a whole book, right? So I ended up forcing myself to read a couple of books, and now it's I'm getting better, right? So I think it's very, very important, and I think that's another thing that que nous pa parlant trop dans communauté is reading. Gen pile bagay ki caché dans livre, pile moun ki mette experience, they share their experience in a book. Like 20-25 years of experience in a book. That's huge, right? You can sit down and read the whole entire story of someone, right? So
you think you had a person that was on a Bookstagrammer or something?
Yes.
And that's just the idea. There's information there, but it's not. And I guess for that situation, it becomes you read it, but you have to make it actionable.
Right.
You can't just take in information from all these sources and not make it actionable. So you have to step beyond yourself, make it actionable, or even monetize the experience. Either it'd be like you see the Bookstagrammer, so it's a monetizable experience where you could just go online. I know one girl, she actually goes on YouTube and she talks about all these books. So that becomes like a situation where she could develop herself further. So there's opportunities everywhere for all our stories.
Exactly. So now we're gonna transition to a lot more personal questions. They're not too personal, but they're a lot more personal. So na fel pi rapide. So na fel quick. So it's gonna be like fire questions, right? So boom.
Let's go.
So all right. So first question: what is your greatest lesson learned in life?
Greatest lesson learned was from grandma, because a lot of our parents' generation did a lot more with less, and we could learn a lot from them. Because they just had the tenacity, the drive to even leave Haiti, go to America, brand new foreign country, new language, and they just did the best that they could. And we should respect that more and try to really understand what they learned along the process and how they were able to manage with as little as they had.
Awesome, man. Awesome. So who has the greatest impact on you?
Greatest impact might have been, and I had to think about that one. It's like, it might have been Serge Rodriguez of the Haitian Heritage Museum. I used to work for them at the very beginning, did the educational management content for them for at least a good year. And he said something that was very interesting to me, because it was after the housing crisis, and we were just having a conversation while we were fixing the place up, fixing up some lights, painting the walls. And he was saying something like, hey, people make money no matter what. So there's, even in a downturn, it's one hand and another. Somebody
Right.
always is receiving this money. Like one person might be losing it, but somebody else is gaining. So I wanted to be in a position when I said to myself, I want to be in both. I want to receive and gain all the time. I don't want to miss out on whatever this thing is. And he was right. There's always somebody making money.
That's true. That's true. That's definitely true, man. So I know you are the type of guy who's, always learning. What type of skills or what are you learning right now?
What am I learning right now? Probably podcasting, or even a little bit more investing in all the different aspects of dividend investing. And it's really shaping up because I became more intentional, and I increased my dividends or our output dividends for the year about like 70%. So next year, automatically we'll be making, based off of dividends, about like $3,500.
Nice.
That's just easy.
That's just dividend.
That's just dividends. That's just, you put into effect, and it's just going to keep rotating itself.
It's pretty dope, man. Pretty dope. So what's your favorite finance book?
Favorite finance book
about money?
Yes. The favorite finance book would be The Two Income Trap, I believe that's the name of it, by Elizabeth Warren. And she really talked about the way that the middle class has become. You had like one person or two people, but you had a bigger house, you got a bigger cars, not just one car, but two cars. And next thing you know, you're more and more broke because you're not paying attention. And then she wrote this thing back in like the 80s. The fact that she had that wherewithal before she even ran for anything. This is what she was doing, education. And she realized it was a problem. And ultimately that ended up being our problem to this day. The fact that everybody just, as you get the wife and your kids, you have a super big home, you got bigger, a bigger car, you got a bigger lifestyle. The family vacation is $10,000 a year, and then you're keeping up with the Joneses, and you're gonna end up being poor no matter what.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's true, man. So when are you when you're not working, right? You're not working. You're not doing any financial literacy. I guess content. What do you do for fun, man?
I always do that. If I'm procrastinating, that's what it is. When I'm not doing that, I'll try to go running. I don't really love running, but it's something that's, cardio wise actually does help out. Spend time with the fiance, watching some anime, or even playing some video game on Google Stadia. But for the most part, what I love is to try to help people. Even just subtle calling somebody and say, hey, what's going on with you? I haven't heard from you in a while. I haven't seen anything about you in a while. What's going on? So part of us as Black people, Haitian people, all around the diaspora, we're people of community, people of conversation, and we need to get back into it versus just showing a photo of the best part of your life. Sometimes people are not going through the best part of their lives.
That's true. That's true. That's true, man. That is 100% true. So, quick word of advice for young folks right now listening to this podcast during this pandemic. What would you say to them?
Take advantage of this opportunity to learn a new craft and basically not become lethargic, not just fall into just playing, being on TikTok online all the time. Because at this point, you probably burnt out on all content. You're done. It's okay to start learning. Right? Like, it's only so much Netflix you watch. At this point, you don't even have, you're forcing yourself. Like a kid, forcing that next scoop of ice cream. Like, it's too late now. Let's move on. It's too late,
yeah.
So now it's time for us to focus on ourselves, putting those things in order, following the right people. I think that's the biggest thing you can do. Follow the right people, share the right content. It will change your life. If you don't do it, trust me, you'll see the difference with somebody else that did the exact opposite.
The exact opposite. Man, awesome, man. It was a complete pleasure to have you here on the podcast. And before you go, so if anybody here listening would like to stay in touch with you or start to follow your content online, where would they find you?
They would find it. Majority of my content is on the website now, which is www.theneighborhoodfinanceguy.com, www.theneighborhoodfinanceguy.com. The same on Instagram or even on Facebook pages. But 9 times out of 10, if you've ever been on Union Street or the Haitian-American, you're already familiar with who we are and what we do.
Yeah.
So I've been around the game for a bit. I'm in the background. I'm not Wanda.
That's another thing I forgot to mention. Yeah.
Wanda's the leader out there, but I be in the back sometimes.
Back Union Street. That's pretty nice, man. I was
That's what
happy
we
to
do.
too.
Create good content, create good people, and share this type of content. You know, Korean podcast is out there. It's live. It's on IG. It's on Instagram. It's
Yes,
on.
sir.
It's on every. Like you have no excuse to get on this podcast.
Right.
So you
right.
listen out and tell your friends too.
Tell your friends, tell everybody, man. Don't keep that information to yourself. Just listen to, building your little empire by yourself. Tell
Because
tell your
you will
friends.
lose it by yourself too. Like the more you build it with other people, the more you know what it is, and
That's
the more
true.
you can retain it. Because if I didn't do what I did, I wouldn't be able to speak to other people. I wouldn't be able to get more opportunities at work. I wouldn't be able to. It's just like it's a whole rounded thing. The more you talk about it, the more you share, the more you become knowledgeable, the better it is, and money will find its way to you.
Exactly.
So
It's
abundance
an
is not
abundance
limited.
mindset, man.
Yeah,
It's
not limited.
abundance mindset. Bon bagay, Lawrence. J'aime d'Abdullah, c'est ton plaisir, man, pour nous te gagner un podcast, man. I truly appreciate it. Et au point temps, dans schedule, on a un qui vraiment busy. Et on devine porter, partager un pile bon d'informations. Mes amis, pas oublier, m'a supplié nous, pas oublier. Sous une information ça que saute par là, allez sur Apple Podcast, bah nous un petit review. Et dis-nous comment ou apprécier le travail là, ou bien on peut dire nous tout qui blague nous capable améliorer parce que moi mais positive constructive criticism. Allez sur YouTube tout, allez subscribe, allez sur IG pour follow nous, allez sur Facebook, like page nous, share bagay information avec nous afin que pour nous capable build community ensemble. C'est avec vos amis Auditor, avec Lawrence. Ciao ciao.